Hello everyone, and welcome back to MUP Halo, the only Halo show. Actually don't have anything today. It's 3 a.m. I've woken up at 3 a.m. to make 3 time zones work, and we've already made a joke about free healthcare. My name is Wiki Dave, and with me, like always, is I've got James-005. How are you doing, James?
It is not 3 a.m., so I'm loving life. Cheers, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for reminding that. And with us, with a very special episode this time, is the boys from Truth and Reconciliation Podcast, Kevin and James. How are you? Oh, Jesse, sorry. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having us here. It is also not 3 a.m. here, so I am so sorry you had to do this.
That's all right. I already called Jesse James, so this is always going to go bad. It's Pokemon, right? That's the Pokemon.
We've all done it.
You can't.
Right? Jesse and James are icons, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I love I love that you first went to Pokemon with Jesse and James, which there's a whole bit in America with Jesse James, the Outlaw, and all this stuff. And my kid's watching Pokemon as we speak, so it's
Pokemon
all full
is the only
circle.
answer.
And that's right. And she's also watching like the original series, like the Kanto stuff. So Jesse and James, they are the OGs in a lot of ways. But we're really pleased to be here. Really excited to talk with you guys about Halo Flashpoint and the Halo universe. And I'm glad we can all make it work.
Yeah,
I'm having one of those
Pokemon than Halo so far.
I'm having one of those horrible 40-year-old man moments when I realise everyone is 10 years younger than me. Present, so thanks for that in the Pokemon talk. That's really appreciated.
I'm 37. You're not.
I'm
you just
actually
never were into it.
35, so I'm not too far
There you go.
off.
Okay. You're all 5 to 7 years younger than me. Cool.
Yeah. Oh no.
I'm surely behind you. Don't worry.
I mean, I'm the only one here with a heart condition, so I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the oldest one.
There we have it.
Yeah, there we have it. So anyway, we're going to be doing a bit of a collaboration here with Truth and Reconciliation, but first we'll quickly do the what are we going to do? We're going to do some news first. There we go. So we'll go into the news. We don't have too much that has been kind of announced or talked about. The only things that's actually worthy of noting is some new items on the shop. So what I've actually noticed, the Mantic Games web store. So we actually noticed that there's the Banished Garrison scenery. Those are the kind of the equivalent of the UNSC scenery kind of equipment that you can actually get. It's not actually included in the bundle that everyone kind of bought of the Banished bundle of all the new stuff. It's something that seems to be added after. So just if you want, it looks like it's actually going to be released in September of the Banished set. I think it's something definitely worth picking up. It actually shows that actually investing into more kind of like custom scenery like that. There's also the Banished Deluxe mat that's come out, similar to the other 2 mats that have actually been released with the Wave 1. I think it was Wave 1 that were released, or Wave 2. But either way, there's now the Deluxe mat. So essentially you could have 3 different maps for Halo Flashpoint now, and also the alternative version of Atriox. You can actually see the retail version is actually available on the Mantic Games store. So the one that you can get with the bundles, he's actually holding a Halo helmet. The retail version isn't. I think he's just pointing. And I think he's just pointing, or he's got his hand out. But either way, the alternative version is there. So if you do want to get both versions, if you have actually ordered the Banished sets and have that figure in there, you can actually now get that. And I think it's all in September that it's going to release. I think it kind of lines up with Wave 4, whatever. But I can't tell whether that's actually just what Wave 4 is going to be, or it's going to be and other things are going to be included there. Just to throw it out to you three, have you guys noticed those versions, or have you ordered them yet?
Definitely noticed them. I still need to pre-order all my stuff. I'll be perfectly honest with you. That's probably in the next week or so, something I just need to get done. But I want all of it. I want alternate sculpts all day. I probably want 2 of each, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I kind of have some ideas for kit bashing Atriox using both versions. So we'll save that for another date.
Amazing.
I guess what
it really stood out to me as well.
The tariffs, the pricing, is that really too much of a deterrent at the moment, or how is that hurting you?
Well, it's an influencing factor for sure, but Also, I just started a new job last month, so I'm still like getting the feeling for that and, you know, working things out. So I have to very intentionally plan things out because I'm a loose cannon and I will just go buy a bunch of things. And I need to not do that this time. So I'm tempering myself in terms of what I'm allowing myself to get right now.
Yeah, also behind the scenes too, Kevin and I have some events we're running this year in North America. And so a lot of our kind of energy and time and probably finances is going to be directed towards that. So in a way, we're taking like a little bit of a step back as players, like maybe not pre-ordering every single item right out the first gate and maybe focusing more on travel and things like that. And so that's on our radar because we have Lone Star Open in Dallas, Texas in August. And then we have Las Vegas Open to run in October. And both involve travel by plane.
So it's good to know. Impulse control is definitely an issue within the community. It's that's good to know. But okay, interesting. So how many tournaments have you been to so far with Halo Flashpoint?
Kevin, you want to jump in first, or?
Yeah. Well, it's been just in terms of in-person ones, just Adepticon for us, which happened in March up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that was our first. At least my first experience with it. I haven't done any local events yet, even though there is kind of a local scene growing here, which is very exciting here in Chicago. I just haven't had time to go attend any in-person events outside of that. So yeah, Adepticon was kind of the one and only between the GT on Friday and then the Nationals event and then also the team tournament that Jesse and I did on that Sunday.
Yeah, Adepticon's been the primary thing for me as well, but additionally, there's been some local things happening here in Tulsa, Oklahoma that I've been helping run. So in the way of going to tournaments, it's more I've just been helping run stuff. It's mainly been learn to play stuff, but some little pick-up 3-round things and things like that, 4-round events as well. So, but I'm typically in the TO spot in those.
So and just going to those events, because just going to those the bigger events, are you noticing a really strong positive vibe about the game at the moment, or is it more people are still curious and dipping their toes into it?
The vibe has definitely been overwhelmingly positive, at least in my experience with it. I feel like when we went to Adepticon, there was just a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, a lot of positive energy in the room in general. I mean, we were all excited to be there, and we got to meet so many incredibly cool people. And I mean, even the guys running the event, it's like there was just this palpable enthusiasm there, which was very cool to see for like a first major event kind of on that scale. And I have no reason to believe like it's not going to just continue to grow from there. So I think and there's something we'll get into later in the episode too, is it's one of the unique things I want to talk about later about Halo Flashpoint in general. I just feel like the energy is right. There's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of enthusiasm and hype around it. And it's really encouraging to see.
Yeah, I completely second what Kevin's saying here. And I think that the energy in that room was very palpable at Adepticon. Obviously, Adepticon being our largest North American miniatures gaming con for the year, but additionally, on top of that, Mantic having their own room, Rick Hall, the North American Mantic representative, and like his whole team of Pathfinders and people working under him. It was a tight ship. It was amazing in there. There's a lot of energy around Dead Zone and Halo both respectively, and it was just a great time meeting all the new players. And even like in its infancy, this was back in March. I mean, this is when the game is still fairly new for us in North America, but people really brought it with their competitive play, but also with their paint jobs and their squads and stuff like that. And a lot of demos going on the sides as well. It was a great time.
Well, it's really good to hear. That's really good to hear. I'm actually no, because I'm a terrible host. I didn't end the news properly. So hold on. I'm gonna do this real quick. There we go. Because I had to play the sound effect.
Love that.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I put it on there. But anyway, what we'll do is we'll go for actually a bit of introductions. I mean, not everyone is aware of who you guys are, so we might as well start at the very beginning, as they say. So we'll start with you, Jesse. So basically, kind of introduce yourself. Who are you, and how did you come about playing Halo Flashpoint? And
yeah, my name is Jesse Aiken. I like to do podcasts around these game systems and play games and TO as much as I can in my free time. It kind of occupies all of my free time and outside of my family and work life. And Halo really drew me in. Full background with me before Halo, of course, is have a really rich background in board games growing up, board games and tabletop, kind of even before the board game renaissance. It's been happening the last 25 years or so, where board games were just a huge deal for me. Playing some classic board games like Axis and Allies and these other, massive games. Twilight Imperium came out, and when by Fantasy Flight Games, which is also another massive sprawling 4X, space opera game. And that really just kind of like got me into the next level of things where I'm seeing these games that are really thematic, a lot of interactions with other players, miniatures on the table, things like that, which then eventually opened the doors into miniatures games. And my kind of entry point in miniatures games was Fantasy Flight Games and them getting the Star Wars IP about 15 years ago. And when they got that and I started playing games, I'd played the Star Wars Wizards of the Coast game before that a little bit, but not really dug into the full tournament scene, doing it right and everything. And so when Fantasy Flight came out with X-Wing, Armada, and soon to be Imperial Assault, those kind of became my forays. And then I started playing competitive games for those, started doing podcast content for those over 10 years ago, and kind of fell in love with just the whole miniatures gaming world and players and just the experience of being a miniatures gamer, traveling places to play, meeting people, interviewing people, whether it be for the podcast or meeting friends. And that eventually led into the modern sphere when 2019, when I got into Atomic Mass Games, Marvel Crisis Protocol, started doing a podcast for that called Fury's Finest, and really just digging into more of the skirmish miniatures game, which was kind of kindled with that Imperial Assault thing that Fantasy Flight did, where I just realized that skirmish was actually my preferred way to play. I was playing Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Armada, competitively and casually and having a great time, but really just this miniatures gaming kind of zoomed in even closer with the skirmish, really what got me in like further over the years. And I just realized it was my favorite part. And so in that interim time after Marvel Crisis Protocol, I actually touched base with some of the Mantic guys, and I got plugged into Walking Dead, actually, by Mantic. Had a ton of fun with that, speaking of another great miniatures game system. And more in the narrative sense, like doing the campaign and, some of the semi-co-op stuff. And I really appreciate Mantic reaching out and like showing that to me. And then shortly after that, got into Star Wars Shatterpoint when it came out a few years ago. Started doing content for that game on a podcast called Hello There. And really just kind of just loving the skirmish. And what do you know, this is all like just a layup setup for me for Halo Flashpoint to come out, which Halo was one of my loves of my youth, playing the games on release date, when they came out, every game. And it was just a perfect storm. And Kevin and I already had an experience playing Star Wars Shatterpoint and Marvel Crisis Protocol for years and years together. And we're really close friends and started recording together for those systems and stuff. And then it kind of opened the door for Truth and Reconciliation, which we'll get to later. But we knew when we saw this game system at Adepticon that it was for us. And it was a certain itch of the skirmish game that had not been scratched yet for us that we really wanted to pursue. And so that's why I'm here.
Interesting. So you mentioned Walking Dead being exposure to Mantic. Was there anything else from Mantic you had been exposed to along that path until now? Because as most people say, the Halo Flashpoint is modeled after the Dead Zone game. Have you played Dead Zone, even just dabbled in that at all? Or?
I had never played Dead Zone, no, but I definitely seen it out and about. Like I said, I had been playing games like Star Wars Legion and stuff, which had a similar like starting point as Dead Zone. Legion started around the same time, but I never played Dead Zone. But I'm a huge terrain guy. I love to like make terrain and try to make my boards as interesting and dynamic as possible for all the game systems I play in, especially as a TO. And so it was funny. Some of my other interactions with Mantic were the terrain boxes, right, from Mantic that really spoke to me in a lot of ways because they're the modular terrain boxes, and I know that was for Dead Zone. And I actually ended up building terrain from those sets for games like Marvel Crisis Protocol or other game systems. So in a funny way, I was like dealing with Dead Zone terrain quite often, which is now also Flashpoint terrain, the kind of modular cube stuff, but never got to play Dead Zone. But Walking Dead really spoke to me because it was just an IP I was really invested in. I'd been reading the comics from Robert Kirkman since they first started coming out, and the game system being based off the comics as well, and it kind of being this co-op experience, but also you could even have the skirmish versus mode as well, was a really neat aspect of that game to me. So that was that and the terrain were my two big entries into Mantic.
Interesting. So we'll pivot over to Kevin as well, because I've got a feeling your stories are going to match up somewhere along those ways. So I guess introduce yourself there, Kevin, and also just how you got started with Halo and your personal experience with tabletop gaming.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Caldwell, and I don't know what gave away the idea that Jesse and I had similar upbringings there, but you were absolutely correct about that. Grew up on board games from the time I was like 3 or 4, learning to play Risk, Stratego, like, games like that with my dad, with my siblings. And that's kind of where that started. And I've loved board games my entire life. And then that just kind of developed as time went on in terms of miniatures gaming. The first one I was introduced to was in the early 2000s. I started collecting the models because my cousin and uncle had the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game miniatures from Games Workshop. And we got into the game back then. I collected the models. I never played competitively because I was still pretty young. Collected the models for a couple years, and then we just didn't touch them for maybe 6 or 7 years or longer. I don't even know how long. But the point is, at like around 2016, 2017, my brother and I started getting back into the game, and I also met people in a local community here in Chicago who were playing that game. And that's where like the competitive side of it started to form, and then, going to events, getting to know these guys in the community, hosting events over the next couple of years for, what has now become the Middle-earth strategy battle game. It's had like 3 or 4 different rebrands in its life cycle. So it is currently Middle-earth strategy battle game. And that was where most of my miniature gaming began. I played that for a number of years before eventually getting into Marvel Crisis Protocol, as Jesse had mentioned. Played that game for a couple years as well, and that's again how I got to meet Jesse. He hit Fury's Finest was one of the couple of podcasts I listened to for that game, and then eventually jumped into their community. Jesse and I became friends. We continued to bond over Shatterpoint when that was announced and that came out, and that's kind of been the one that I've really been invested in the last 2 years. The Shatterpoint scene has been so much fun, and I've met so many cool people through it, and that's kind of been where my heart was at. And then, of course, culminating in getting to Halo Flashpoint. So I grew up with Halo, as I'm sure a lot of us did, where I got introduced to Combat Evolved by my cousin, played it a little bit, had a blast. It wasn't until Halo 2 came out that I really dove fully into it. And that's kind of where the love of the entire universe kind of began with that. I have so many great memories of playing Halo 2. Playing Halo 3 in high school, we'd get 8 to 12 friends together on like a Friday or Saturday night after school. We'd stay at somebody's house. We'd bring a bunch of systems and TVs, and we'd like all link up and have these gigantic games where we would just spend 6, 7, 8 hours into the night / morning just playing Halo 3 together. And those are some of my absolute favorite memories. So that love of Halo has always been there for quite a long time. So getting to see at the previous year's Adepticon, the Mantic booth having the demo for it, I was hooked immediately. I mean, I like walked up on it and I picked up some dice. I got to touch a model and I was like, okay, I'm into it. Let's do this. Let's play this. The thing that really sold me immediately was the respawn mechanic. We have all played miniatures games where your favorite model gets iced and taken off the table immediately. And then you're like, well, now I can't play with my toys that I, wanted to use. I was looking forward to using this particular model. And I love that that's not the case for this game because you can respawn. So that's kind of the key mechanic that immediately like looped me in. I was like, this feels just like Halo multiplayer. Like they really captured the essence of the game for me. And here we are, doing a podcast on it, having a great time with it, getting to meet tons of awesome people in this community. And this is my first time doing anything Mantic. I had no exposure to it whatsoever prior to Halo Flashpoint.
Very so. Now that you've had the Mantic exposure, have you guys dived into any of it, or kind of done any research into the other Mantic, or are you kind of just still holding off? Because there is a pretty big group of people that have moved to Dead Zone since discovering Halo Flashpoint, and it's been quite interesting hearing some voices going in that direction.
And that is definitely cool to hear. I can only play so many games at once, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I cannot divert my attention beyond more than like 2 games at a time. And I'm still so heavily invested in Shatterpoint and now Halo Flashpoint. So like MCP had to, take a back seat, as did Middle-earth strategy battle game. I just don't have the bandwidth or capacity in my life to do more than 2 games at once. So while it does sound appealing, and I would definitely like to explore that a little bit more in the future, I just don't have the time right now. So it has been just Flashpoint for me.
Yeah, it's very similar for me. Yeah, it's very similar for me. Kevin will probably laugh because I have a very similar mindset to Kevin, except I do play 3 games competitively and do content for those games, and try to TO and run things for those games. So that's really, yeah, doing Star Wars Shatterpoint, Marvel Crisis Protocol, and Halo Flashpoint to the highest level that I can does eat up all my time. I have looked at Mantic games over the years. Like I said, when I got involved in Walking Dead, I came more aware of what was going on with Mantic. Armada has always really interested me in Mantic, and not to be confused with Armada that I played under the FFG banner, which was the Star Wars fleet battle game. But now there's the Mantic fleet battle game, which of course is on the ocean. That game's always interested me personally, aesthetically and just playstyle wise. And so that's something I've had to talk myself out of a couple times. Like, hey, Jesse, you got plenty of stuff on your plate. You don't need to buy those models from the Empire of Dust or the Trident Realm. But that's what I would play. If I played that game, I'd probably play one of those factions because they speak to me on at least an aesthetic level, and I assume gameplay wise. But doing good, keeping it at bay for the time being. And now that Kevin and I are really busy with running some North American events coming this year for Flashpoint, it's even easier for us to kind of focus our vision and just be like, well, let's work on that. And then, I've even actually, Kevin knows this, but maybe you guys and your listeners don't know this, but like, because being involved in more in these miniatures game systems more, I've had to like actually cut like my board game stuff out for the time being, like my board game nights and stuff like that. Those have just gone, but it's not like they've gone and they're just missing. It's like they've been filled with like running events for these miniatures games and stuff. So it's all good.
I mean, you're still part of the hobby. It's really hard sometimes to balance it when there's so much good stuff at the out there at the moment. I mean, back in the day, when we were teenagers, essentially there was only just really one company, GW, that everyone would gravitate to. But now that we're kind of in 2025, we've got so many different options. It can be a good and bad thing, because it's just a question of whether that game will still be around when you actually have the time to actually play it. And I think that's the hardest bit, is gambling the fact of will this game still have an active community when I get around to actually playing it. That's the one thing I do worry about sometimes.
I would fully agree with that. And I think Kevin and I are both players that I think the majority of our experience for playing these games is talking about them and playing them, not to slight anybody that's a hobbyist, because I'm definitely a hobbyist as well. But I'd have to have someone that I want to like. I think Armada is a great example. I mean, by Mantic, it's a game that's always interested me. If I had a local person who was like, "Hey, Jesse, will you play Armada with me once a month?" Then I'd start thinking more. I'd be like, "Well, yeah, maybe I can make this work, right?" But if I don't know a local community going for that, or I don't have a personal friend who's playing it, I've got plenty going.
I mean, I personally don't have any kind of active community around where I am. I pretty much just play games against my girlfriend and against. Actually, only my girlfriend so far. So I'm definitely more of the hobbyist side of it, and hearing how people approach the game has been actually quite interesting. As everyone's got their different kind of avenues when they enter into the hobby, and it's interesting hearing it evolve and hearing people stick around with it. All right, well,
I do think as well. Sorry, Dave.
No,
I think as well. I mean, that point around a scene is really important, right? Is there somebody to play this with? We have one of the most kind of rich and diverse periods in gaming. I was at UK Games Expo the other weekend, just wandering around and just seeing all of the competitive games being played. There were some people sliding counters across a board in a way I didn't understand. There were some people playing, is it Beyblade, where they kind of fire them into an arena physically. I had no idea that was still a thing.
Yeah.
All of those people were half my age and way cooler, but they were clearly having a great time. I almost bought. We walked past and had a demo of Malediction, which is a new game involving cards and 3D printed miniatures. But ultimately came down and said, well, you can't find a scene for this, right? And I think that's got to be the key thing when you're looking at how to spend your time is, can you spend your time with it, right? Is there something some people to play? And that's why it's really nice to see people investing in the scene for this game, because I think that's ultimately what gives it that longevity, right?
For sure. And like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a full competitive scene or like a tournament circuit, though. Kevin and I really like that when game systems have that. Let's go back to the Armada example I gave earlier. If I had a local friend who was like, "Hey, Jesse, on every third Saturday of every month, we'll play a game of Armada," that's enough for me. Like, I'll lock that in. But it's just when you have even more, like when you have the local rotating things and you got the competitive scene tournaments you can go to as well, podcasts, whatever. That's a really fun way to be even more invested in these game systems, which is great because there's things you can do in the times you can't play the game. That's half the reason why we do the podcast. We want people to enjoy Flashpoint when it's something we want.
Right. And that's how I approach it as well. I like watching and hearing about it.
And that's actually, I mean, it's a good test. That's how I kind of keep score. Being a real nerd, I kind of track. I found when I became a father, like I wasn't spending my hobby time productively, so I try to focus on things like, actually, am I producing units? Am I building terrain for the local community? Am I running and attending events? Like am I producing content? The things that actually kind of matter in the hobby, because I think as you have sort of less and less time, spending your time wisely in your hobby, it becomes more and more important. And I think that's, especially if you want to keep it going. So it's interesting to see people with similar experiences.
Certainly. No, it's very much like how you're using your time and what's important to you, right? And getting that kind of squared away, which works for the individual person.
100%. So what we'll do now is actually we'll segue this, because we are having a really good discussion, into the roundtable discussion. So what I've done is I've listed down a few few questions to ask, and then we'll just actually go through each of our perspectives about that particular question. And I don't know if we'll get through all of them, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Might jazz up the order that I sent you guys, by the way. So it's a little heads up, but we're see how far, because we're a little bit pressed for time. So we'll start at the very beginning. So I'll chuck this question. Who should I chuck it to? We'll chuck it to you, Kevin, first. What is the most unexpected thing about Halo Flashpoint so far for you personally? It doesn't have to be a good one, but it can be whatever you want.
What a wonderful question to start with, and I already have an answer. So in terms of what I was most shocked by with Halo Flashpoint, the ability for this game to be a bridge between so many different groups and types of people, everything from the super competitive, maybe Warhammer gamer. I'm sorry to throw Warhammer out there under the bus, but y'all are super competitive. So people like from that end of the spectrum to maybe more casual gamers, to people who don't have any interest or have never done a miniatures type game before, to people who play board games. This game is unique in that I have seen it pull people from kind of all of these different groups and categories all together, and people have fallen in love with it. Or people who just haven't played any kind of miniature, tabletop, board game, whatever, but just like Halo. As long as they have some kind of attachment here, you can bring them in. Or inversely, if somebody just likes board games and likes miniature games, and maybe they know about Halo, because I feel like most people are at least somewhat aware of it. Even if they don't have the depth or knowledge of it, it's still a really good, easy game to bring people into. So I just like that it has been a bridge between many different types of people. And that is probably the thing that was most unexpected to me about how well executed it was and how well designed the game is.
All right, Jesse, we'll check it at you now.
Piggybacking off of Kevin a little bit, but obviously going a different direction, I think the variance of play is really amazing, and I think that's bringing in a lot of different player types from different communities. Like Kevin mentioned, I think getting board gamers into a miniatures game is a huge boon for our communities that we represent, which is typically more the miniatures gaming side of the sphere of the tabletop hobby. But the thing that's kind of been unexpected for me about Halo Flashpoint, and that I've really enjoyed, and something we've seen in our community a lot too, is the variance of play and the player skill expression. There's a lot of it in Flashpoint, and I think it's something that Ronnie's mentioned from time to time too on the Mantic streams and things, where at first pass Flashpoint might seem like, oh, this is a fun quick skirmish game. Maybe there's some randomness, maybe not, maybe the player skill doesn't matter as much. You play more and more, you realize the depth of the scenarios, the list building, and the plays you can make in games, and you start seeing that player skill expression, player play style, things like that are really pronounced and deep in this game for a game that's played on a 2x2 grid-based system. At first appears fast and quick and casual, and that is absolutely not the case. I think you can play it that way, but I think additionally the players that put in time, we're seeing all sorts of things that shock us and surprise us every week in our leagues and other spaces where you're like, yep, once again, the game gets deeper and deeper, and I'm thrilled to learn more.
Interesting. And James, we'll chuck it to you as well.
slightly controversially, that I like the game. I absolutely love Halo. I was not sold on this game before I played it, and before I actually got to play it properly. And all the things the gentlemen have expressed before me are true, but I was not expecting to like it. I was expecting to paint these miniatures and then go straight back to oh, those are cool. I'll put them on my shelf and paint them with my old armor color, and then go straight back to MCP. And that hasn't happened. So that was the biggest surprise for me.
Do you think that's a common thing, or people that haven't played the game yet, they do just look at Halo Flashpoint as just one of those gimmicky kind of brand games that hasn't got a lot of substance to it? Is that feeling still out there, or do you think just the word of mouth that is now starting to change that perspective?
I would say for me, I think what is still holding it back is it's still Spartan on Spartan. And I think as we get more options, I think we'll see more. As we see the Banished properly rise, as it were, in the next month or so, and then hopefully more factions to follow. I think that will help it sort of emerge from that kind of, so many of these IP based single box games have been cash grabs. I think that element of it, I think it'll just help it step out of that shadow.
Jesse, Kevin, what's your feeling on that?
Kevin, you want to jump in, or you want me to?
You take it first.
So I think that is something that was initially out the gate that I've heard. I've heard people, especially in the competitive spheres, unfortunately, as Kevin mentioned, where they say, "Oh, it seems a little light," or maybe it's just Halo IP, and that's really about it. But like I said, with my previous answer, I think that's absolutely the opposite of the case. So I think word of mouth is getting around. I think Adepticon, at least for us here in North America, was a huge boon because, like I said, it's a major miniatures convention, and people got to kind of see it, come in, do some demos, learn that maybe wasn't the case, see the breadth of scenarios in the game and coming to the game, list building being added. And I think this new era we're in, something Kevin and I have talked about on Truth and Reconciliation a lot lately because we think it's really important. The game was in its first phase, late last year, early this year. Now we've just begun its second phase, and we genuinely believe it's the second phase of the game. That's the Arrival of the War Games expansion, where it's a whole new game, not only in having new models to play with and new weapons and such and scenarios, but it is a new game. There's a point system now. You build your list from the ground up. So I think that also part has been revealed to the world, and I think maybe some of the more moderate to highly competitive players are now coming in and playing it for the first time that we're seeing as well.
Mm-hmm. So you're expecting a bigger growth in year 2, you could say.
Absolutely. And I think the Banished too, James said it so well. I think just having more model representation and a visual interest as well. Let's also not forget new terrain, right? It's just going to bring new eyes to the tables when you're in the local shop and people are walking by and they're just seeing like those brute models or the brute terrain, or maybe, like you said, Banished versus Spartans, a more traditional Halo battle. There's so many layers to it, but I think War Games is the number one reason, personally.
Well, that was pretty succinct.
Yeah, I was just waiting for if you wanted to add anything.
No, I don't really have much else to add there. It's like I definitely I could see the perspective of like, the initial hesitation of, oh, it's just Spartan on Spartan. That can be kind of maybe a deterrent to some individuals. And I was almost in that camp myself. Again, I had tried the demo, so I was hooked. Because I personally, I don't really care. Like, the Spartans are cool. They're fine. They're not my favorite. I'm here for the Covenant. So it did help that they had Sangheli mercenaries in there with the Spartan edition from the jump. So at least I got hooked in with that. And I was like, okay, cool. This will hold me over until, as Jesse said, the Banished continue to grow and come out, and the Brutes are on the horizon, and then I can play nothing but Brutes for the foreseeable future. So it's in a good spot, and I definitely think that, as Jesse said, like kind of year 2 of this is definitely where we're going to continue to see that growth happening, because even in a small sense, the local scene here that I mentioned in Chicago is continuing to grow more and more by the day, and I cannot wait to actually get to an in-person event, but it is just cool to see that the game is growing, it's expanding, we're pulling more people in, so I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, on the right track. Oh, actually, on that note, we'll go to the next topic that I have here, and that is, what is the number one thing on your wish list. And what we'll do is we'll start with James. So James, what's your number one thing that you have on your wish list for the game? Whether it could be a model, could be a game mechanic, could be anything at all. What would be the number one thing?
The number one. I dialed back in at the right moment. My mic cut out right before you asked.
Yeah, I saw that. I tried to
I'm
repeat
glad you
question,
repeated it.
so it looked real subtle. But now
Real
you pointed
smooth
it out,
until
it
I
kinda
pointed
ruins
it
the
out.
magic.
There you go. Maybe we'll be saved by the magic of editing, or maybe not. I think that
No.
it's very hard to pick one thing. I think for me, to bulk things out in that direction. Mostly because I know, knowing what's kind of coming next, that kind of fulfills the other things. I know, that's the one thing that I would want that's not already kind of announced and in the pipeline. So yeah, absolutely, more factions.
All right, I'll check it at you now. Just see the same question.
Well, I second what Kevin said earlier. I wouldn't even be here doing this podcast and probably part of this community without them announcing the Banished and the Covenant were part of the initial kind of part of the game. I think that's huge and vastly important to me to not have necessarily mirror matches of Spartans. So we would have never done the show if that wouldn't have happened. So Kevin and I were both lock and step with that. So it's more of what James is saying too. I think I would like to see the Covenant fleshed out as their own faction. I'd like to see, I know the Banished are in the game currently, and that's kind of the modern iteration of Halo. We can talk about that, but I like to see more of the older iteration of Halo with the Covenant. And so what that would mean for me on a gameplay perspective is bring some of the cheaper cost Covenant units into the game to make the Covenants have their own identity, maybe be a little bit wider list. So maybe add Grunts and Jackals into the foray here and let Covenant players have some low health, cheaper models, but they can maybe have more models on the table and kind of feel like that classic Covenant feel. And then my heart of hearts answer is introduce the Flood into the game and have a completely new faction identity and play style that we have yet to see in the rule set. And that would just be the beginning, because Halo is obviously a wide universe, but I think if you brought the Covenant and the Flood into the game and have their own identity separate from the Banished and the UNSC, that'd be a really great start.
And over to you, Kevin.
The Prophets. Full stop. I want all of them. I want all three of them, particularly Truth if I had to pick. Just give me the Prophets in their floaty hover chairs and let me just play as them with an army of... I don't even care what else I have with them. As long as I get them, that is literally all I want. My life will seriously be complete, Mantic, if you're listening to this. If the Prophets come to this game, that will be the peak for me. I will have arrived at the moment at the hilltop, and I'll be so ecstatic. So I just want the Prophets in this game.
Well, that was a little bit unexpected, and that's probably a fetish that you probably want to explore in your own time. But anyway, we'll
trust me, I have.
Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to a different question. Oh God, what's the next one? We'll go. Okay, here's one for you, Kevin. I'm gonna start with you because you went into your whole profit obsession. How long do you see this game lasting for? So that there can be just all hypothetical thinking based off your previous experience with other game systems, of how the current environment is with gaming. What legs do you see Halo Flashpoint having?
Well, I'm going to give you the pageant answer of I think this game actually could go on forever, and I only say that because the games I have played are still going on. My first game, as I told you, Lord of the Rings, which has now become Middle-earth strategy battle game, has been around for 20 plus years.
Good point.
And it still has. So I'm like, okay, so maybe it's the optimist in me, and I see that because that was the very first game I fell in love with, and it's still going strong, and they're constantly reinventing the wheel and doing new things, and it's still engaging, and it still has a growing player base, even though I have certain feelings about GW. But the game itself is still being played all these years later, and obviously the other games that I'm into, MCP, Shatterpoint, are still newer. But they're still going strong, and they're still innovating that. So AMG is doing a great job with that. So, I just look at my own timeline of playing these particular games, and I see that they're all doing well and continuing to grow. So I would like to be hopeful and say that this can continue because there is so much rich history and lore in the Halo universe to expand. So I don't see any reason why it couldn't just kind of continue on. So I know that's like the cop-out answer, but I needed to like give it to you from my perspective of all my games are still being played by people. So I have no reason to not believe that this can't follow that same path.
Yeah, I mean, good point. I mean, Morham never really died as well. I mean, I remember playing that when I was a teenager, and even when it was out of print, there was still a community underground, but there was still a community going. So the games only die if you let them. So I completely understand that. We'll pivot to James. Same question. What's your feelings on the legs of Halo Flashpoint?
So, I mean, I think this has, I think this has great potential. I mean, what ultimately kills IP-based games is a fallout between the producer and the IP holder, right? If Microsoft decide that they want to do something else, right, with this IP, ultimately that's the only thing that kills this game. So, I think we've got many years ahead. Typically, I suspect there should be presumably a length in this licensing agreement. So I think we've got years ahead of us with this, and I'm very much looking forward to that.
Fair enough. And Jesse, have I gone around the right way? I'm all confused now.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this.
There you go.
I
sorry,
agree with Kevin.
I forgot whether I got asked you or Kevin. My brain. It's 3 a.m. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're totally fine.
You're doing great.
I agree with
you.
with Kevin, where I think people will continue to play this game post its releases, but I assume that like we can look at this question when I answer it here through the lens of like, I assume you're talking about like Mantic continued support and releases, right? And I think with that life cycle, you can look at Mantic games past or just other similar IPs, and I think very, very easily this could be a 10 to 20 year game life cycle. I know Dead Zone's past the 10-year point, for instance, and doesn't seem like it's stopping at any rate. And Marvel Crisis Protocol, which Kevin mentioned is a newer game, but it's on year 6, and they've talked about they've got 15 years of releases at least or more, and that's their intention to continue on. So I could see Halo following the same pattern, and I love to see that, even if the cadence slows down, year 6 onward or something, right? So ideally, I think that'd be a wonderful amount of time to have it. Like if we had it 10 to 20 years, that'd be pretty fantastic. And then obviously the game could expand into future game modes as well, really kind of harness people's collections to that point, like people's that maybe have been playing over all these years. Maybe you can introduce a new game mode, like Big Team Battle or something like that.
Yeah, actually, on that. Oh, sorry. Go, James.
Oh no, I was going to actually wonder when maybe we should be expressing how long the game will last in the number of hearts Dave will have had by that point. But maybe that's inappropriate. Anyway, let's move on.
The answer will probably be 2 because I probably have 2 in my lifetime. But robotic hearts are becoming a thing. I could get one of those by the end of my life cycle, so we'll see. I really hope so. That'd be amazing. I want to be a cyborg. I'm currently a cyborg because I've got a machine in me at the moment, so I'm kind of half cyborg. Anyway, we'll actually chuck back to you. This is going to be the last question, and then we're actually going to jump into a fun little quiz that I got prepared because, as I said before, we're a little bit short on time, so we're trying to fit everything in. So the last question, and we'll start with you, Jesse, here, is in order to have vehicles, would you like the game to just expand, or would you want just a different version of the game? So maybe Halo, Big Team Battle, something, and very similar to Mantic's game Firefight. So what they have is they got Dead Zone, and then they've got their bigger version, which is more kind of that 40k kind of feel of Firefight, which is just an expansion on that Dead Zone. So how would you feel? Would you think they could just expand what they've got here, or do you think they're going to have to bring in a different system for it? Because they do use size accurate models with it, so the vehicles are going to be the correct scale if they do introduce it into Flashpoint.
Is Firefight still grid based like Dead Zone is?
No.
Okay. See, that's the part where I struggle with it. I would love to have a big team battle mode, and I've even seen people in the community obviously creating their own variants of Flashpoint, which I adore, where you essentially make it a 4x4 or a 2x2 across or 2x2 again. I don't want Halo Flashpoint to lose its grid-based system. I think it's really the magic of the game is all the systems they built around that. So as much as I want vehicles to come in the game, I want to maintain the grid-based system as well. So if they could do both, I think that would be kind of the sweet spot. I think that could absolutely work, especially if it's just the small to medium-sized vehicles. You never really breach the ground of the super large vehicles. But I mean, I'll be honest, like I played Star Wars Legion for years and years, and one of the appeals of that game is the vehicle combat as well, which is not necessary to play in Star Wars Legion. Like, you can have a competitive or fun list without any of the vehicles, but the vehicles kind of take the epicness and the scale to another level, right? I mean, you know, when you bring out one of those giant tanks or something, it really does evoke a feeling of a bigger battle. So I think the perfect world situation for me would be, yes, I would love to see a bigger version of Flashpoint, but I want to maintain most of the rules and the grid-based system, but just expand to a larger board state. And then, yeah, maybe you can introduce Ghosts and Warthogs, which are smaller base vehicles, and that could really work, I think.
Cool. Well, we'll chuck that same question to you, Kevin, too.
Yeah, I don't want it to lose the grid-based functionality of the game. That's kind of the big appeal to me. So if they were going to do it, then in my mind it would be something where you would just need, like you said, because they're going to be scaled accurately and appropriately, you would just need like a 4x4 in my mind, and just expand it in that kind of capacity. And then yes, you can introduce all these different kinds of vehicles. As Jesse mentioned, you could start with the smaller ones. You know, you can do Warthogs, Mongooses, Ghosts, things like that. But if we're going to introduce vehicles, like I want Wraiths, I want a Scarab. I know that's ridiculous, but like, why not, right? A giant Scarab on the table. Who doesn't?
I mean,
who doesn't want to fight that?
I want to. Well, I mean,
I don't think it can fit,
right? Yeah.
We can make it fit. We'll find a way to get that on the table. But anyway, so maybe that's shooting a bit too far. But the point being, I would love to see vehicles in the game. They are a integral part of Halo, so it would be very cool if they could find some way to make that work in the context of Halo Flashpoint without altering the game too much.
And finally, for you, James, what's your feelings on it?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Halo with vehicles in it is fundamentally, you know, it is fundamental, right? You know, to the, you know, I'm at my happiest on Valhalla, you know, charging round in a Warthog. You know, I love that aspect of the multiplayer experience in Halo. I think to bring that to Flashpoint, I don't think, you know, I think you would have to do something like expand the number of maps. I think a good first step, I'd love to see something like, either through special orders or some similar version to tactics cards like in MCP, with a sort of like, you know, Mongoose insertion or, you know, Wraith support kind of effect, where you can have a one-off effect like, you know, using a Mongoose to move up the board, and it's not a model on the board, it's an effect. You're getting to kind of capture the, you know, Warthog drive-by, you know, to kind of capture the effect without needing the model on the board. If you actually wanted to bring them in as playable models, then yeah, I think it's a fundamentally different experience, and it's too early. I don't think we want to be fragmenting the player base. You know, I think this is a year 4-5 kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I completely agree with all your guys' points. So it's quite interesting. Now, so we're going to leave the roundtable discussion there. I actually did have some more questions. It's just we don't have time to go for them all. And if you want us to come back in a future episode about, just let us know. You know, as they say in the comments down below or wherever, just harass us until we do it. So next up, we're gonna end the show in the last 10 minutes, just as a fun little bit, as a bit of a quiz. So James, Jesse, and Kevin, I'm going to ask them questions, and we're not going to do the whole I'm going to pose a question, then people yell out their name, because there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to figure out who said it first. So we're just going to go one by one. Now, if you can't answer the question, someone else can steal it, and it's the best of 5. And those that are listening, play along. This is all fun. If you cheat, I mean, you know, you just ruin the game. So it's on you if you do cheat. So, but anyway, I'm going to roll this dice as well to figure out which question I should ask first. All right, we'll do this one. So, who wants to go first? Any volunteers?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, Kevin. All right. What were the key words introduced in the War Games expansion?
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Now, I'll give you a good amount of time.
I missed the question. Can you repeat it?
What were the key words introduced in the War Games expansion?
I should know this, and it's kind of insulting that I don't. And I'm not going to look at the packet, so if somebody wants to steal it from
try
me,
not to,
before I
'cause-
do
I'll
this-
steal.
No, I'm not. Steal it from me.
I'll steal.
Go.
It was guarded, stable, and EMP.
That's absolutely correct there. And for the record, I did not give James the questions beforehand. And he doesn't have access to the document. We normally share the document notes before the recording. He does not have access to this one. So, well, you don't. Hopefully you don't. I'm not seeing you.
I just play too many Gungnir.
Right.
Anyone who knows me knows I play too many Gungnir.
Yeah, which is why I should know it, because I fight against them too often.
EMP
Yeah,
was
fair
a good
enough.
shout out. I was not thinking that at all. I was like, it's definitely stable, but I was like, what are the other ones? And I was like sitting here and thinking, yeah.
Well, how about we'll chuck it
Good
to
one.
you then, Jesse, for the next question. How many points is the Spartan laser worth?
16.
Yes, that is
Okay.
absolutely correct. Nice.
Man.
All right, and we'll go back to Kevin because James got that last one, and he may or may not have accidentally exited the room. What is the most expensive unit in the War Games expansion?
Are we talking about no like attachments or anything added there? Because that
Right,
would be
just
chief.
based. That's chief. All right, yes, you got that right. So that's 1 point to everybody. There we go. It's a good start. Considering it's best of 5. All right, so we'll go back to James. What's the next one have I got there? True or false? Oh no, this one seems a bit mean to put to James. But true or false? The weapon looks like Cortana because she is a clone of her. Is that true or false?
I'm going to say true, unless, of course, you're tricking me because she's a copy. But yes, true.
Technically, she's not a clone of Cortana. She's a clone of Dr. Halsey.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a dick move, but because I know you don't
That's
know the
fine.
law very well, so I kind of feel bad for that one. We'll go to you, Jesse. Which one of these does a Sangheili mercenary not have? A pulse carbine or a Covenant carbine?
Covenant carbine.
That is correct. Yes, though it has a pulse carbine. There you go. That's 2. All right. We'll move to
It's a
you
bit
now,
tricky.
Kevin.
I like that.
Yeah. It's. I try to make them at least a little bit difficult and not too obvious because you can go really obvious with these questions. What model has flight?
Oh god, the has up.
Yep, that's right. There you go. That's 2 for Kevin. All right. We'll move on to you. Which one? Where are we? No, that's 2 for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, we're back to James.
Oh no, and that's a James. Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, James. What is worth more, a cinder shot or a heat wave?
Cinder shot by 1
Yes,
point.
you're right there. There you go. Don't know how you know that. I've got ADHD. I had to write all these answers down because I had no idea. All right, so we'll go. Who we go? We'll go Jesse now. So Jesse, this is going to be one of those fun fact questions they have that is not related to the game. Who voiced Fred 104 in Halo 5?
Oh, man.
Who voiced Fred in Halo 5?
I think someone's going to have to steal it from me.
Does anyone know the answer to that one?
Oh no, you can skip right over me.
Yeah, not a clue.
Yeah, it's Travis Willingham from Critical Role. If no one knows,
Excellent.
I guess I'm just a big old nerd on that one.
Well, now I know
Anyway, I'll move to he's also a famous voice actor. He's done a lot of voices. We'll move to Kevin. Name 3 special orders, and they can be any.
Alliance, reinforcements incoming, one-man army.
There you go. That was too easy. And for bonus points to somebody, can you name the other 2?
Catch and snapshot.
No.
Return to sender. Return to
There
sender.
we go. Return to sender. Well, that feels like everyone gets a point off that one because it
There we
feels
go.
like that was a very kind of split kind
I
of
like
one.
it.
All right, so you're all at 3 points technically. I think I messed up this point system, but oh well. It's all fun. It's all in fun, right? All right.
I'm just glad I'm not at 0.
I'm just glad I'm not doing it. So Jesse, we'll go with you. Name the 5 new weapon drops in the War Games expansion.
Oh, this one's hard. This one's hard. Okay.
Yeah, it gets a
Definitely
little
this-
bit difficult at the end because I decided to make
Weapon drops. Okay, so definitely the Spartan laser. We're gonna start there.
Yep.
And then after there, we've got the new grenade launcher that the Gungnir has. Is that right?
No, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not right.
So
Weapon
we've had a
drops.
grenade launcher before.
So no, I'm not
Weapon
saying
drops.
weapons. Weapon drops.
Gotcha,
Right, the
gotcha.
physical,
I
yeah,
understand now.
the tokens. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got at least one of them.
I mean, we've got the pistol now. The Halo 1 pistol.
Yep. So you
That
got
was
the
not a
well,
drop
I'll give you that Magnum.
And the Magnum, of course, yeah. So the
got
Spartan
the
laser, the Magnum,
We got the
Spiker.
spike rifle.
Spike, the
That's
Spiker
not a
for
drop,
sure.
though. It's not a drop.
The spike rifle is
Right.
though. Have I gone again?
Spike rifle.
No, you're still there. You're still there.
Okay, cool.
It's not the spike rifle.
You sure?
Spiker.
Well, I've got here, and I've got to run the needle
Heat
rifle,
wave.
the Spartan.
Oh,
laser,
the needle
heat
rifle.
wave,
You're right. Sorry, I was.
Plasma repeater and Magnum.
Okay, yeah,
You-
you got it. Look at
You
that.
started making me doubt that I got the wrong answers there because you get the
No,
spike rifle, and I'm like, no, it's not the spike rifle.
No, I was picturing the needle rifle, but saying spike rifle. That was the error.
Well, Dave
couldn't
gets
get
a
plasma
point
repeat.
on that one. I
Yeah,
get a
Tim.
point on that one. All right, so we'll go with Kevin. We'll go with you. Spartan Fists replaced what in the War Games expansion?
Combat knife.
Yeah, you got that one. I thought that was going to be a little bit too easy. There you go. We'll go to
Thank you for the easy
James.
questions. I appreciate it. Pad my score.
No worries. All right, go to you, James. What is the most expensive in points item?
Item. It is the hard light shield.
Yes, it is. Damn it! I hate how that you're good at the game. It's annoying. You're supposed to lose it, Chris. Anyway, we'll go for you now, Jesse. Let's see. How many points more is the plasma grenade compared to the frag grenade? So how many points higher is the plasma grenade?
2 points.
It was 3 points.
Oh, that was my gut feeling.
All right, there we go. So Jesse, you're on 3 points. James, you're on 4 points, and Kevin, you're on 4 points. So only one away for James and Kevin. So this one's going to be a little bit different of a question because all 3 of you get to answer this, and it's whoever gets it closest because the chances of you getting exactly right. I mean, there is a chance, so I shouldn't really say this. The question is, what is the official release date of Halo Flashpoint? Now, Kevin and Jesse, you can name the US release date, and James, you can go for the UK release date because I got both of them here, and they are different, weirdly. So it's whoever's closest wins the point. So I'll go with you first, Jesse. What date did Halo Flashpoint come out? The US one.
November 16?
All right. Kevin?
I don't have a clue, so I'm going to say November 17th so that I'm close to taking it from Jesse in case he's wrong.
All right. And James?
November 12th in the UK.
12th. All right. So in the UK, it came out on the 30th of 2024. And in the US, it came out November 16th in 2024.
Wow.
Yes.
Well done.
So was it Jesse that got that right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So Jesse, you're back on 4 points. So everyone's on 4 points. So how
Incredible.
can I do this? All right. So, how can I do a tiebreaker without it? All right. So this one's going to be the buzzing one. All right. So you just have to say your name, and that will be the buzzing. All right. How many variations are there of the original Fire team, which is the Brawler, Deadeye, MK7, and Zavada? Zavea, whatever. Always muck that up. So how many variations are there?
Kevin, answering first.
All right. Yep. Go.
Okay. My knee-jerk reaction is to say 3, and I only say that because we have the ones that came out in the Spartan edition with the standard, human weapons. We have them with the Covenant weapons, but then we also got the Phoenix one that came out as like a GT prize and things that we had at Adepticon with alternate sculpts. So I didn't know if alternate sculpts counted for this answer or we're just talking about profiles in the game.
Alternate sculpts counted.
Okay, so I'm saying 3.
You're saying 3. You're incorrect.
That's fair.
Does anyone? I think
I'm
James
gonna say 2.
cut out. So you're gonna say 2, Jesse?
That was my gut feeling. Yeah, so I'm just gonna stick with it. Yeah.
Well, that's wrong, and I can't get James. James has exited the room currently. So I'm just gonna reveal it's actually 4. So you've got the original team. Then you got the Team Hydra, which is the one with the Covenant weapons. Then you got the Fire Team Phoenix.
I know it's
and
coming
then
here.
You got Fire
Team
Team Wolf. Yeah,
right.
so there's actually
there we
4
go.
variations. So I find that actually quite surprising that it was 4 variations on that. All right, so I think it's just between you two because I think James has cut out. I do know he had to gap a little bit early, which is why we're trying to blaze through it. So we're gonna say James quit. Because he was intimidated by you guys' knowledge, even though you seem to be answering pretty quickly. All right, so between you two, I will. Who wants to take the final question? Because this will be the tiebreaker.
I mean, we can both take a question. We're ready, I think. So
You
it's
sure?
up to you.
It's mainly because I'm running out. But all right, we'll go to Kevin. We'll go to you. How many models have swords?
2. No, 3. I lied. No, 3 is my final answer.
Wow,
Mike.
2.
Damn it. I was like saying Healy. I forget the other Spartan, but then I thought of Chief. I literally forgot Chief for a second there. I was like, dang it.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't play him. Get out of here.
It's we're gonna say okay.
No, it's fine. I did say 2 first. To be
The problem
fair.
is that's the last question on my list because I did 16 questions. I thought that was going to be enough considering there's 3 and there was only top to 5. So we're going to say Kevin won it just out of a technicality. But
Sounds
that
good.
could be contentious. He did say 2. So I mean, you guys.
I
can
did
take
he
that
did
out
say
in your
2.
private time.
I did say
You could
2.
ask us a Halo lore question and watch us.
No, that's fine. We
flail
can skip
around.
this portion of the interview now.
Oh, I see.
I'm not going to go against you with lore. Get out of here.
That's
I
right.
don't know. Every question Dave's thrown at me has been really tough. So I imagine the next question he has is tough.
Okay. Here's the question then for you, Jesse. What was the name of Spartan 034?
Any hints?
He was Chief's best friend.
Chief's best. That's got to be Sam, right?
Yes, it was Sam.
Okay. I wouldn't have done it without your hint though. But
I mean, Kevin
I was like,
also
he's a
said
Spartan
2 first.
too.
So
I'm sitting there. I'm like, he's a
balances
Spartan
out.
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
there you go. That was one off the top of my dome, so I'm glad I got that right. There you go. Well, so yeah, thanks for both of you for popping along. I think this is something that we had been trying to make work for many weeks now. I mean, I'm really glad we did it. Sorry we didn't have a bit more time. It's just one of those things about time zones and life. It kind of kicked in. So I really do appreciate you guys coming along. And now's your time to plug your own podcast. So give a bit of a spiel to those out there that haven't listened to your podcast.
Kevin, you want to speak the truth, prophet?
Speak the truth. Well, you can
Speak
find
the truth.
Yeah. With my obsession with the prophets, jeez. You can find us both.
Yeah, that's what you can expect.
Listen. That's what you can expect. I'm very transparent about my love of the prophets, so this is not news to anybody that knows me.
And we have a bit here. I mean, Kevin and I have the duality of the covenant going on because Kevin represents the prophets and I represent the Sangheili, and so we got to have balance out here.
It's true. It's true. But yeah,
you know,
so
though,
you can find
you guys
Jesse
are
and
the
I.
bad guys who lost, right? You guys are representing the bad guys who lost.
Oh my god.
Bad guys is kind of a harsh term to be thrown around here.
I
You guys
mean,
wanted to blow up the galaxy. I mean,
I actually think the Sangheili kind of won because the Arbiter kind of directed everybody back down the right path, So, but you're right. The prophets, it was no good.
yeah.
Wow,
Anyway,
turning on me
you're
again
selling
here,
it.
Jesse.
Sell your podcast.
No, you can
No,
find
we
both
love
of
it.
us
We
over
love
at
it.
Truth and Reconciliation, Halo Flashpoint podcast. So definitely check us out there. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us there. And you can jump into our Discord community as well. We have a very active community with that, and it's been a lot of fun. So come check it out.
Yeah, we would love to have you. We run digital leagues on TTS for the game in that Discord, and as we mentioned on the show, we're going to be doing some major grand tournament events in North America this year that we have the pleasure and just excitement to be running, that we were asked by Frontline Gaming to run Lone Star Open in August and run Las Vegas Open in October, and we love to see all the North American players come out and get those GTs to the largest level we can get them, and to get a really great first year of major events for Halo Flashpoint North America. So we're looking forward to helping run that too. But you can find us everywhere online, just at Truth and Reconciliation. We'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, and all their links will be down below in the description, and all our stuff. I'm not going to plug our stuff because they deserve the plug here. Will be in the comments down below. So if you want a quick link to go check them out. So thanks you all for popping along, and I really do appreciate everyone for listening. If you have for this long. And yeah, if you guys have any comments, or if you want us to kind of do this again, I've got a bunch of questions that unfortunately we didn't get to with the roundtable discussion. So yeah, just let us know if you want to do this again. And yeah, thanks all for listening. And until next time, see ya.